Oh boy, America's diminishing work ethic. Here it is. Hey there, I'm StevenGarofalo. You're watching the Reason for Truth podcast and television program here. Listen, we're very animated, very excited, hopefully to keep you awake. But in a Wall Street Journal article that is The American Work Ethic Dying by Daniel Henniger, published May 12th of 2021, 6:22 p.m., ET, Daniel points out that Americans and much of the world, and I'd submit the West in particular, has reached a tipping point regarding losing its work ethic. After millions were paid more money by the government to stay home, play video games, relax for 12 to 24, up to 2 years, not even pay rent in many cases. And for many, their work ethic never returned. For many school kids, they're 2 years behind, will never catch up. All that was diminished and in some cases simply erased. In reality, your work ethic reflects your faith in God and your witness in a secular world and to a secular world. And today I'm going to share with you the three basic biblical principles that the Apostle Paul gave us, picking up from our last episode on this, as I had promised. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 11, 12. Two simple verses that say a lot about the importance of our work ethic as being reflective of God and our faith. So hang on and let's get started. Greetings, everybody. I'm your host, StevenGarofalo. This is Reason for Truth, where the truth comes first, the reasons come last, but we're always and constantly learning, because when we stop learning, we stop teaching, or at least stop teaching well. Here I help you cut through the fog of culture's distorted truth, because in our relative world, the truth doesn't change, but the human will to distort it does. And we cut through the distortion of current events with the truth of God as an antidote to the false messages of this sinful world. Before we get started, you know what I always say, man, Gancio Sinistro. It's called left hook in Italian. Boom, knock out that little subscribe button and go down there and just click the little German bell down there. Cling, and they'll tell you when the next episode comes out. Listen, during the height of COVID crisis, a good friend of mine who works for one of the banks told me stories without giving names about employees. He just gave me general sketches. Many of them had completed their college education, worked hard to get this job with the bank. When COVID came around, it was just too tempting, man. They refused or made excuses not to work. And after all, the government was paying them a lot of free PPP, their stimulus money, PP money, right? And employees, including major banks and corporations all over America, were prohibited by law from terminating them. And so they milked that. They took advantage of it. And as a result, people came up with all kinds of excuses not to work. Some of them were believers in Jesus Christ. That's wrong, naughty. As a result, the United States in particular, and I'd say many countries around the world, created a massive population who lost their sense of work ethic. Just sent my wife an article because I read Italian news. I'm Italian. I read it in English, by the way. And they were talking about how there's a massive problem there now of people just not going back to work. They just don't want to work. It's interesting. It's an issue all around. People have to learn, listen, if you had 2 years off, it's hard to get back in that groove. That's why even though the government may give you some time off, you don't want to take to get too comfortable, because when you may wake up and just be poor rest of your life because you just lost your oomph, you lost your momentum. And I think that's a lot of what COVID took in many aspects. I've seen that in many groups. They just lost the momentum that had been going on for decades in their organization or their personal life. But what I want to speak with you about today is a simple fact that for the Christian, this should never be the case. Today we're going to look at the life of the Apostle Paul, again, 1 Thessalonians, who left us a clear model as to how to live a life reflective of God in light of having a strong work ethic. So let's just jump right in with the Apostle Paul, and it tells us regarding the Christian work ethic. Now, in addressing the church in 1 Thessalonians 4, chapter 4, verses 11 to 12, Paul says this, and to make it your ambition to lead a quiet life. Talked about that in past episode. You haven't seen it, go check it out. Then he goes on to say, you should mind your own business and work with your hands. And that's what we're talking about today, just as we told you, so that your daily life may what? Win the respect of outsiders, non-believers, by the way, and so that you will not be dependent on anybody. Now, that includes the government, okay? Paul was telling the Thessalonian church, as well as you and I today, a few important things about what we need to do in light of working hard as a reflection of God and our faith in Jesus Christ. And let's now break down exactly what Paul, and I think God is telling us through Paul, on how to live a life in light of work ethic in Paul's letter. Now, first, Paul makes it clear that we are to live quiet lives. All right. Number two, second, Paul tells us here in this passage that as Christians, at a Christian household, should be in order as a testimony to the unbelieving world, and I'd say as an encouragement to believing world and their households. And I addressed those in a prior episode, as I just said, as living a quiet life, or why live a quiet life. You want to check that out again, and make sure you go do that at our StevenGarofalo at locals.com. I'm going to put a pre-plug in for that, and because listen, that's a new platform we're on. You could go there. It plugs into all our videos. You get them at least a day early. You get exclusive videos, and you get Q&A and doing some live streaming. So StevenGarofalo at locals.com. Check that out. All right, listen, let's just jump right in. The third point Paul makes here in this passage is that as Christians households, we ought to be ought to have our households in order as a testimony to others, a witness to Jesus Christ through this. And Paul exhorted the Thessalonians to work with their own hands, which is what I want to focus on today. Now, Christians are to be dedicated, productive workers. And failure to work hard is a negative witness to the world. And when you just listen, make clear of that. It also produces an unhealthy dependence on other believers and just the public in general, even the atheists, even the non-believers. So Paul had set a good example as a worker. What did he do? He made tents. Man worked all the time. He worked as hard as he could without being, as dependent as he possibly could, not dependent on others. And this is why we work hard. Now, first, we are to work hard. Why? As unto the Lord, to provide for our families without making our job our God. If we are focused on working hard instead of being important, we're going to see ourselves more as a humble servant leader rather than an important business person or government person focused on money, profits, power, influence. Right? That's number one. Second, we work hard because it keeps us busy, which keeps us out of trouble, I think. Keeps us from becoming busybodies. And we talked about that as well in that last video. And I want to submit idle gossipers fits into that. Right? That's number two. Third, we work hard. Why? Because by working hard, we become witnesses to the world who seek not to work often. Right? I mean, why not just take it easy? I've seen a lot of people retire. They just kind of atrophy, become a lot of times overweight, not always. They just become lumpy. Their minds become groggy. And I'm not putting down retirement. I'm just saying God's given you something. He's given you time. He's given you perhaps financial ability to go serve him now in some way. I'm not saying you got to work 7 days a week. I'm just saying serve him. Put your time to good use. It's a gift from God, right? A lot of times we don't even deserve what we've got. Well, we never deserve what we got in this goodness. But so let's keep that in mind. But we have to work hard in order to, take it easy on the backs of others. I think that's wrong. In the United States, again, as I stated in the last episode, 65% at least of the people in this country here in the United States pay zero taxes. It's not going to last forever. They collect money from the government in most cases, but they have not paid. A lot of that hasn't been paid in. They're taking that out on the backs of other Americans that come before them are still working. It comes in the form of Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, government pensions. And the point is here is the principle. The principle is let's make sure that we're working hard unto the Lord and not sitting around because we can, not serving him, just enjoying the leisure to sleep in and live a groggy life every day. That's the point. The unfortunate byproduct is a population, not only in America and Italy, but all around the world, focused on pleasure, leisure, and gluttony as we relax and enjoy life in the backs of our children and our grandchildren for the future. I spoke with one lady who said, I remember I was at the gym, and she happened to be in the machine next to me. She says, I'm so stressed out. This was in 2009 crash, in 2008. She says, my husband and I are so stressed out. And she was serious. I don't know why she's telling me this. She says, we both have pensions from up north, full pensions, and we came down to North Carolina to work another 10 years and get a second small pension. She's from North Carolina, and I don't know why they would give her a second pension. I think it's unethical, but evidently it's the union thing to work another 10 years, and then at the end of the day, the economy's going bad. She's terrified for the second pensions might be compromised, and she and her husband's retirement was based on this: 2 Social Security checks, 4 pensions between 2 people. Really? And who's paying for that? Their children and their grandchildren. Yeah, I think this is very unethical. I think it's wrong. And as believers, I think we need to be aware that our job is never to position ourselves on the back of others. Apostle Paul was very clear. Listen, Apostle Paul had skills. He could have easily taken it easy, but he didn't. He made tents, started a business. To do what? To pay his way to be able to serve the Lord. Very, very different. You can disagree with me on this point. You go read the scriptures and see what the Lord tells you for himself, right? It's a matter of time before this all changes, by the way. Before pensions are reduced. In some cases, they might be eliminated because the economy is, well, we're on the verge of a big change. Stock market goes down. A lot of those pensions are attached to those stock markets. And I know people with them. It's going to be a sad day. The point is that this should never be an issue for the Christian. It's not about the deal the government gave us or even a corporation said they had this, so this is the right thing. If we knowingly buy stolen goods, right, because from somebody, well, they stole them, I didn't steal them, we're an accessory to the crime. This is kind of the point, but that's really not the focus of today. The focus of today is, listen, we're called to work hard, and we're doing all these things, and we're doing things that are unbiblical and a lot of times immoral. Just because something's legal doesn't mean it's moral, by the way. Think about that. But at the end of the day, Proverbs 23:5 says this: cast but a glance at riches, and they're gone, for they will surely sprout wings and fly to the sky like an eagle. And what King Solomon's saying here is that riches and money are fleeting. They're elusive. Your bank and my bank, they could suddenly be gone overnight. I'd submit that Paul's words are an instructive wake-up call for you and I, but more so for the authentic believer in Jesus Christ, because slothfulness is a biblical violation, and Paul worked hard with his hands, and there's a reason for that, because rainy days do come. We don't want to base our older years and even our younger years based on there's always a sunny day, right? Strong biblical work ethic gives a witness to other people. If we follow God's his ways, his words, I think we'll be better off, and we'll live a life of meeting. But if you're not working in your retirement, but taking it easy, try to figure out how to live a meaningful life that reflects your faith to others. That's all I'm saying. We want to make sure we're doing the right thing, but we want to look and always be working hard. Even if we're 20, 21 years of age, we want to make sure that we're following the biblical blueprint for life and preparation for eternity, not just how to take it easy here and retire at age 40. These things are not bad. I think it's great to retire by age 40 and then figure out what you want to do in light of serving the Lord, so you don't have the pressures of fundraising a lot of money, or even if you have to, at least you don't need the money you needed before. And I used to work out at a gym with a young man from Jamaica. He was from Washington, D.C., and I got to be honest with you, our political views were almost 180% on most issues, but we were friends, and he once told me this: Steve, in Jamaica, it's not rare, it's not uncommon to find an 80-year-old man riding his bicycle to work. I'll never forget that. He says, listen, the guy doesn't work 70 hours a week. He goes, does his job, and he finishes up and he goes home. And he said, it's interesting here in America. And this guy, his mom worked for the government, and he's collecting social just like me, right? And you. But he said, it's interesting. We just don't have those things. That money's not there to give people free money. It is an interesting perspective because he was right. I mean, again, we shared most, not all, political positions. Is quite opposite, but he still saw reality. He was truthful, and that's what bound us. We were both committed to the truth, but his words struck me, and that's something, Jamaica gets some things wrong, but that's one thing I think they get right in understanding. And especially in Europe, they've got a lot of everything. Socialism one day comes down when you can't afford to pay the bills. All right. Remember, God tells us through Paul that we are to work hard unto the Lord. That's the point here. Make it our job to work hard, be a witness for others. And second, if we work hard because it keeps us busy, keeps us out of being in trouble, keeps us from being idle gossipers, that keeps us in light of God and in being a witness for Christ. And third, we work hard because by working hard, we become a witness for Christ in the world by watching they're watching everything we do and say as believers in Jesus Christ. So Christians are to be dedicated, productive workers. Failure to work hard is a negative witness to the world. It also produces an unhealthy dependency on other believers. Now, Paul had a good example. He left a good example as a maker of tents, a tent maker. To reiterate, the three main reasons why we as Christians are to work hard is this: simply, first, we are to work hard unto the Lord to provide for our families without making our job our God. If we are focused on working hard instead of being important, we will see ourselves in a more humble servanthood. We talked about that leadership role than an important, powerful person of influence and money and all that stuff. That's number one. Second, we work hard. Why? Because it keeps us busy, which keeps us out of trouble from being busybodies. And I'd submit idle gossipers, like we just spoke about. Thirdly, we'd like to be, we work hard because by working hard, we become a witness for the world who seeks, not work, but seeks to work hard in order to take it easy in the backs of others. So to work is to be selfless, to depend on others for our comfort. That's selfishness. And if working with our hands, if we're helping others with our hands or without our hands, I think Paul was working with his hands. Everybody worked with their hands back then. There was no digital age. What he's saying is this work, right? Just as we, Paul told us through, daily life, we've watched him, and the Lord Jesus Christ has provided through Scripture. If we do these things, we're going to earn the respect of others, of outsiders, so we'll not be dependent on anybody. That's what Paul said. The good news is that we can all stop what we're doing and start doing better today over time. God will raise up nations that work hard. I think nations that don't work hard are going to suffer here in the near future. This is the beginning to happen already, and already I believe this is about to happen on a whole new level. As I said, worldwide revival is at hand. I also think that's the good news. So prepare, pray for God's provision and protection, and this is the great news. When everything comes to change, we're going to be there, and if we're prepared and we're in the light of God, He's going to provide for us, and that's the great news. As they close, you would want to make sure, we have over 650 audio podcasts, over 250 videos now. You want to check those out. And you can also check us out at reasonfortruth.org, reasonfortruth.bible. But I'm excited to say I want to invite you to join our new locals channel, StevenGarofalo. Put a little link below for you, StevenGarofalo at locals.com. There you're going to get my videos one day early. And on top of that, you're as well going to get access to exclusive videos that are not being made public, only for our community. And then lastly, what you're going to gain access to is me. You'll have access to me through that portal. And we're going to be doing Q&A live streams. And you don't want to miss that. Those are going to be cool. There you can ask questions, and we can all grow together, talk about things more in a bot-free and uncensored closed community. So join me over there. Listen, that's only $5 a month. That's nothing. You just listen, for one latte or one coffee at Starbucks or someplace else, the coffee shop, that's all it costs. God's blessings to you. Go sign up over there. I'm your host, StevenGarofalo. This is your Reason for Truth for today.